Hey guys, so welcome back to another video. Got another Q&A today. Been getting some really good feedback on these, so it's really cool just to be able to stay connected with you guys, let you guys know that I'm reading all your comments, listening to all your questions, and I want to get back to you all as best as I can. So these Q&As are a great opportunity for me to talk to you, to answer some of those questions. Some of them might be personal, but I try and choose the ones that are broad ranging, that can help everyone out in different ways, with some good information, some good insight. Maybe it's something along my own story, but most of the time, there's some good questions to help us all out with our running journeys. So let's get started again today. Do you recommend focusing on a distance, mastering it, and then moving up? I've tried to be a jack of all trades for a while in terms of distance, but I feel I should start to focus more on 10K, half marathon, before progressing to the half marathon. Would you recommend this or not worry? So this is a really good point, a really good question that I know a lot of runners deal with. Lots of runners will always be asking themselves the question of what is my race, where does my potential lie? What I would recommend to say to that is really focus on what inspires you, what inspires you for that season, what inspires you in that moment. For sure, if you want to get your best performances out of yourself, you need to kind of make sure your training is tailored towards your specific goal race that you've got coming up. Or if you decide maybe a year ahead of time that next year you want to focus on the marathon, you obviously need to really think about structuring your year around that, getting the great build up for the race, making sure you're doing the right training, the right sessions, getting yourself in the correct fitness for those kind of demands on your body. Or are you going to be purely focusing on those 10Ks again? For sure, you can definitely be a jack of all trades, and I think there's a lot of strength to be had in that. You really do need to really keep a good broad perspective of your running. I think it's a really healthy way to look at your running, not get carried away in any one realm. Especially if you're a young runner, you should definitely try and explore running across all the different races, all the different scenarios that running can provide. Okay, so this kind of dovetails into the next question. What made me go from 800s to ultras? So yeah, some of you guys might know the story, some of you might not. I used to run middle distance track in the day. I did run 800 meters. My main events though really were 1500 meters on the track. I absolutely loved that event, and I love the kind of hardcoreness, I guess, that middle distance racing really provides you as a young athlete growing up. I really enjoyed that style of racing, that kind of track events as well, just because you had to literally be doing a bit of everything. You had to do the speed work, you had to do, the long runs in there as well, and you needed to do some really grueling track sessions to get you in some great shapes and great speed for the events themselves. But really what happened for me was I got out of track racing, kind of lost touch with it for a few years after university, did a lot of traveling, started running more just on the trails and the mountains when I'd be maybe in a different country. It's a great way to explore the country. Didn't kind of structure my training too much for a long time, just enjoyed going out running wherever I was, and really pursued it that way. Fell in love with the trails, started running further, got in touch more with Scott Jurek's kind of work there, and Rich Roll perhaps, got inspired by these incredible vegan plant-based athletes who were doing these ultra distance events. I knew that eventually I wanted to work my way up to those kind of events. So that's how it happened for me. I just pursued what really inspired me at the time, and what inspired me was getting onto the mountains, getting to nature, and just exploring that and seeing it on your 2 feet and your 2 legs, and being able to see some incredible parts of the world that I never would have seen had I just been running circles around the track still. Okay, so again, that dovetails into the next question. Lots of these kind of questions link in quite nicely. I was wondering how do you make the transition from marathons to 100K? What's the progression? So it's a good question. If you're used to doing road marathons and you're looking for that next best thing, lots of people do go up to those kind of 100K events. What I would say really, that in terms of the progression, you really need to think about what race are you really aiming for. If you're going from the road marathons to the trail ultra world, you definitely just need to kind of start working more on the trails if you're not already, getting yourself exposure to climbing mountains, getting ascent, getting those hills into your training to really prepare you for the demands that a race faces. But on the whole, I think a lot of people can do really successful in ultra races and the 100K races off that kind of marathon training perhaps that you've done in the past. If you've done marathon training correctly, if you've got some good long runs up in your preparation for your race, then you can go into a 100K race in relatively good fitness with just a few tweaks to that kind of training program. So obviously you're looking at probably increasing the volume to what you're used to, unless you're an elite athlete, looking at maybe having those longer runs, but making sure it's specific for the event ahead. So if you are training for a road 100-kilometer race, then sure, it's not going to be too different from the demands of that 42-kilometer marathon race. I know it is longer, but when you think about it, you really can't push the training out too crazily, too massive in your first ultra races. You can't go out on training runs where maybe you're running over 50 kilometers or over, you know, above that. You can't do that sustainably and safely. So you would gradually just build up yourself to prepare you for that. But if you are looking at going from the road marathon side of things to the trails, to the mountains, then definitely just need to start taking more of your training there, or get some dedicated training times and dedicated training weeks in the mountains to help you prepare yourself for those kind of races. What do I eat as junk food? So for those of you guys that don't know, I am vegan, so that means I don't eat anything that comes from animals. I do try and eat whole food, plant-based all the time, so that means I don't eat a lot of processed foods, but for sure, it's easy enough if you want to. But in terms of junk food, yeah, maybe now and again I'll have some vegan cakes, vegan cookies. You can get anything. So a lot of people have this misconception that if you do eat vegan, if you don't eat any animal products, then that means you're eating nuts and seeds or salads the rest of your life. And you know, in this day and age, you can eat lots of great vegan foods that are just the same basically as your kind of junk food you would typically eat, but don't have any animal products in them. So if I wanted to, I could get outside now and I could go and find a pizza joint, I could go and get some cakes, I could go and eat, I don't know what junk food people eat these days, but you can get anything veganized, really simple, really easy. Probably won't be the most healthy thing for you, but it will probably still be far healthier than those meat and dairy products that would be the kind of alternative version to that. So for me, if I'm eating junk food, it's usually just maybe the occasional brownie or cookies or cakes, those kind of things. But yeah, I could for sure go and get some incredible vegan burgers if I wanted to, but that is the great thing about veganism. A lot of the times it is tuned with healthier food as well. So of course there are healthy alternatives to these junk foods as well. So win-win. What's your favorite training session? One for just top favorite and another for your favorite to get fit that you come back to throughout the season. So in terms of my favorite training sessions, it always has to be on the hills, has to be on the mountains. So it would be in Chiang Mai, it would be specific trails where maybe I'd go for a steady, hard effort on that trail, and that's maybe chasing some PRs, chasing a KOM or a Strava record there, which is always good fun. It's a great incentive as well if you're training solo. So one of my favorite training sessions here in Chiang Mai would be a hard effort up Last Man Standing trail here in Chiang Mai. And if you look at my last vlog, I was running on that last weekend. It's a really tough trail, really challenging, but it's really great because you're getting that vert and you're getting some good climbing in there. And it's a physical challenge as well, getting to the top of a mountain, the top of a trail. It's just a physical goal ahead of you, and it's a good one to go to. But in terms of favorite sessions, just typically for anyone else that's trying to get into fitness, it would be a fartlek session. So that's a session when you go out and you would vary the paces on your run. So you got easy, get a good warm up in, and then you'd be looking at something very simple, maybe 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, a number of efforts like that. Very similar to what a lot of the Kenyan marathoners do, a lot of the Kenyan distance runners, and it's obviously you know, a world-renowned kind of style of training across the world. But that's typically the type of sessions that I really enjoy. Just really simple, but great way to get your speed up, get your pace back up. Okay, so last question now, guys. I'm transitioning from mountain bike more to trail run, but all programs I've found are based for flats. I live in a hilly area, 220 meters, and the peak of the mountain is 1,000 meters. Sounds pretty good to me, and I'm not sure how to incorporate speed and easy recovery runs. So if you want to be a trail runner, then obviously these sound like ideal training conditions. You've got some hills there, you know, up to 1,000 meter peak from 220 meters. That's a good, you know, nearly 800 meters of climbing. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Lots of people who are into trail running don't have that kind of access to trails or that access to climbing. So I would say you're in a great position if you want to be hitting those trail runs and those trail races. So I would say, yeah, don't worry about, you know, if your kind of speed sessions and such. What you want to be really focusing on, if you want to be building that speed still, you want to be going to the hills, you want to be doing some hill efforts of those hills. So anything from some short hill strides, so, you know, 20, 30 seconds, short hill sprints there, where you're really working in that, you know, sprinting anabolic state there. Really good way to develop that power and stride on the hill and running form. All the way up to, you know, you can do obviously interval efforts on the hill, so 1 to 3 minute efforts, maybe a bit longer than that once you get stronger. And then anywhere up to kind of tempo efforts on the hills as well. So, you know, you can take anything that you would typically do in these kind of training programs and maybe that you're looking at for the flats. You can take those to the hills basically, where you're just going to be developing that speed, but in a really progressive and obviously focused manner to the hills, to the mountains, which is going to be getting you really strong as a hill or mountain runner. So this is essentially what trail runners do, mountain runners do. They'll do all their, most of, if not all of their speed work, all of their tempo threshold work on the mountains, because that's more direct to the event that they're doing. But yeah, in terms of recovery runs, easier days, if you do want to take things to the flat and you haven't got a lot of flat land around you, just doing loops of, maybe a football field, athletics track, if you've got one of those, allow you to do some flatter stuff and maybe some speed sessions as well. But I guess from the question that you haven't got those necessarily around you, must live in a pretty hilly area, you can always just take it easy on the trails. So if you're worrying about recovery runs, but the fact that going uphill is always going to be a bit harder, just slow your pace down. Maybe think about using a heart rate monitor where you can track your heart rate just to make sure that you're not overdoing things on those easier days. Is a really great way just to keep yourself in check and to keep yourself in track. But don't worry if you end up hiking at certain points. It's only natural in trail running. Once you have those steeper gradients, those steeper hills, you will be needing to hike from time to time. So it's all part of the process, but it sounds like it's going to be an exciting one for you, and especially with that mountain biking experience, that'll probably go a long way, more than you realise, in helping you with your descending for trail running too. And I would recommend doing some cross training still. If you are going from the mountain bike to running, don't just go full throttle into the running. Still get on the mountain bike now and again. It's going to be a really great way to help keep all those injuries at bay. Okay guys, so thanks for watching this Q&A. I hope you found it interesting, some good information out there for you. If you've got any questions for next week's Q&A, please leave them down below. If you're after coaching, you can email me, harryrunsuk@gmail.com. Thanks for watching these videos, guys. Hope you're having some great adventures out there and some good, exciting times ahead of you. So thanks for watching and happy running.